You ever have one of those mornings that starts out feeling like a rerun, just you and your coffee? The sound of someone's phone alarm echoing down the hall, sunlight cutting in through dusty blinds, and then bam, the world tips sideways? Because for me, it happened at 10:47 a.m. sharp. The moment I saw those three Blackhawks slicing through the October sky over Eagle Ridge University, turning that crisp Montana air into a thumping war drum. And if you're thinking that sounds a little dramatic, well, just picture a Schroders chewing up blue sky, students scrambling to their windows with phones held high, the whole campus shaking like a snow globe someone just dropped on the floor. Yeah, that happened. Let me back up a sec. I was sitting in my third-floor dorm room in Maple Hall, trying and failing to care about American military history. For the midterm, I was supposed to be cramming for Professor Miller, old school, no nonsense, gray hair pulled back, so tight you could almost hear it creak when she nodded. That woman loved her Desert Storm anecdotes. And me? I sat in the back, notebook open but mostly empty, hand half up when she lobbed a question my way. Mrs. Davis, your thoughts? I gave her the standard issue freshman waffle about bombing too much and civilian casualties, all vague on purpose, Valley Girl inflection for extra camouflage. Professor Miller's sigh probably knocked dust off the ceiling. What I didn't say was that I knew a hell of a lot more than any kid in that room. My mother, Sergeant Catherine Davis, U.S. Marine, used to say, there are two types of people in the world, those who watch the storm come in and those who run out to meet it. I was 12 in the old photo taped inside my psych textbook, mom, in fatigues, that same stubborn jaw I see in the mirror every morning. She died when I was 16, not in a firefight or convoy ambush like you'd expect, but from a cancer that swept in before anyone could blink. The last thing she wrote to me was, your courage will light the way home. It was supposed to be permission, not a command. Fast forward to college, Rachel as my roommate, the extrovert's extrovert, all vintage band posters, color, and chaos on her side of the room. My side organized, not a single photo out in the open, and this careful routine I'd built. No wild parties, no overachieving, just average enough to disappear. But when those helicopters came, that whole act cracked wide open. Campus went from sleepy Thursday to full-on lockdown in less than a minute. PA system blaring, boots pounding the hallway, everyone with a phone recording as I got escorted out by two soldiers, one woman. Sergeant Cooper, her eyes measuring everything, the other, Lieutenant Singh, hand never far from his sidearm. People stared like I was a movie extra who'd wandered onto the wrong set. I heard my name bounce from text message to TikTok before we'd even cleared the building. Colonel Marshall was waiting for me in the quad 6 feet of military legend, hair silvered with time, medals and scars you couldn't see but felt in the way he stood. He looked at me, and I felt like I was back in basic, just another rookie getting called out. He said, "You've been difficult to find." My reply was automatic, "I'm not Sergeant Davis anymore." I meant it. But judging from the way his gaze raked the crowd, reading tactical advantages and threats the way some people read crossword puzzles, I knew he wasn't buying my civilian act for a second. And then, right there, in front of 100 phones and half my classmates, he called me out. Not many people would think to look for Sergeant Davis in Art History 101. A ripple ran through the crowd, and for the first time, my secret felt like a grenade without a pin. He wanted me back. 3 months ago, I'd vanished from a military hospital in Germany after Syria, after everything went sideways, leaving behind a record and a whole mess of unanswered questions. I needed time, I told him, to figure out if I could be normal. But Marshall, he had that look. The mission you were extracted from is being reactivated. We need our best intelligence operative back in the field. Just like that, the mask cracked. The student faded. The soldier inside the one I was running from snapped back. That's when the first window shattered, a gunshot or something worse. Glass raining down on the quad, students running for cover. I didn't think, I just moved, calling out the shooter's location, my voice suddenly hard and sure. Sniper, clock tower, 3rd level, north-facing Winter Remington 700, 400 meters suppressed. My brain did the math, drew the lines, saw the angles. Marshall's team locked in, Sergeant Cooper's radio exploded with orders, and in those minutes there was no hiding what I was. The tension spun up, a chaos of sirens, commands, panicked kids bolting in every direction. I took over, herding students away from kill zones, shouting orders that cut through the noise, telling security where to focus. Victor Hardgrove, old campus security, Vietnam vet by the look of his stance, got my eye and gave me a nod, like he recognized something in me nobody else saw. The whole day turned on a dime. Twist after twist, Rachel cornered me, her voice shaking. "Who are you?" And I heard myself say, "Someone who's good at things she wishes she could forget. Someone who thought she could leave her past behind. But apparently, the past has other plans." That hit her harder than I expected. She looked at me like I'd broken a promise she didn't even know I'd made. By then, we were locked down in the administration building. President Whitmore at the table, Marshall, Victor, me. My cover was crumbling. They found out about my GED, my enlistment at 17, the classified deployments, the medals I never wanted to earn. I told them the truth is best. I could sometimes being good at something doesn't mean you want to keep doing it. Sometimes the most dangerous thing you can be is capable. But it wasn't over news of chemical weapons, a plot stretching from Paris to Berlin to London, casualties estimated in the tens of thousands. My hand shook just a little, thinking about what it would mean to go back. And yet I knew I was the only one who'd lived inside the enemy's network, who could recognize their signatures, who could spot the play before it unfolded. The rest of that day was a blur: evacuations, coordinated strikes, chaos, turning the university into a war zone. At one point, I tackled Rachel out of the sniper's line of fire, blood splattering across my shirt. Hers? Mine? No, neither. Just a byproduct of a shot I'd taken on the science building roof, a shot I shouldn't have been able to make with a Sig Sauer, but training takes over when it matters. Rachel sobbed in my arms, then cursed me for lying. I couldn't blame her. Hell, if our roles were reversed, I'd have done the same. Between shootouts and fire alarms, Victor handed me a radio. "Vietnam, 101st, he said, eyes hard but proud. I gave him a nod. "Keep her safe." It felt like a handshake across generations, a warrior recognizing another in the wild. By midnight, the mission had shifted continents. I was sitting in a library basement, surrounded by walls of monitors, briefing after briefing, military code names and threat analyses coming faster than my thoughts could catch. Marshall told me the ugly truth. The man behind all this, Alfred, wanted to draw me out, test me, set a trap. And he'd succeeded. We landed in Germany. Mission parameters changing by the hour. My art major, life study sessions, cafeteria gripes. Rachel's laugh echoing down the hallway felt like a memory from someone else's story. But the worst moment was still to come. Marshall handed me the after-action report from Syria, the one that haunted my sleep, the one I'd run from. 17 civilians. Children. Bad intel, sure, but it was my call. That guilt clings to you, seeps into your bones, never lets go. And you ask yourself, am I saving the world or just adding to the body count? Maybe that's why I chose art. Art creates, heals, makes something out of nothing. But here I was, once again back in the business of destruction, because the alternative, doing nothing, meant letting others die. Next thing I know, we're deploying to Berlin. Multiple suspects, 3 stations, chemical agents rigged to ventilation systems, and twist NATO delegates scheduled to arrive. The whole play was bigger than I'd ever imagined. One of Alfred's lieutenants was caught with blueprints, sold Soviet schematics, the kind that said, this wasn't some off-the-rack operation. I followed the pattern, cross-referenced anomalies, narrowed it to 3 targets. It made sense, but it felt wrong. On the ground, I shadowed the prime suspect through Berlin's main station. Crowds everywhere, the air thick with tension, plainclothes security ghosting in every corner. The Gynazarek Special Forces was too smooth, too prepared. Brush pass at the cafe, a device swapped with a woman I ID'd as Layla Jabri, Alfred's right hand. Something clicked, too easy, too clean. I called it. It's a trap. Suddenly, everything went sideways. Emergency doors sealed, alarms blaring, the bag left behind just a decoy. I followed Nassar into the guts of the station, every step a gamble, my Glock ready, nerves buzzing like power lines in a storm. Voices inside the control room: Nassar, Layla, and then Alfred himself. Not on a video link, there in person. He looked older, but his eyes burned with the same fire. He talked about justice, about retribution, about the airstrike I called that killed his people. We traded words. She tried to push my guilt, turn it into weakness. I pushed back. In those seconds as Nassar lunged for the detonator, my training took over. I shot him before he could trigger it, dropped another with a quick pivot. Alfred just watched. You walked away once, he said, but here you are, ready to kill again. And damn if that didn't land, because it was true. Evacuation alarms screamed through the station. Tactical teams finally crashed in. Alfred raised his hands. The look in his eyes said, "This is just the first round." And as I stood there, adrenaline burning away, I realized I'd stopped the attack, saved lives, but at the cost of whatever shot I had at a normal life. When the dust settled, I stood outside the chaos, the Berlin air thick with the scent of cordite and old guilt. My phone buzzed. Rachel, checking in from Montana, her side of the room empty. Take care of my art supplies. I'll need them when I get back. It was a promise, and for once I wanted to believe it. You know what I mean? Some stories don't wrap up clean. Sometimes the villain walks off in handcuffs. Sometimes the hero limps away with more scars. And sometimes you have to wonder if you're even the hero at all. But for now, I made a choice, the hard one, the one my mother knew I'd have to face someday. To go back out there and try to keep the darkness from swallowing everything I love. So tell me, where do you draw the line between doing your duty and protecting your soul? When is enough enough? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Share your own story if you've ever had to choose between two lives. And let's talk about what real justice and community mean when the world tips sideways.